Hi everyone. So for my final project, I did a learning environment, and I specifically chose the learning environment of the course that I teach at a local community college. It's called English 051 Fundamentals of College Writing 2. I currently teach this course at Harrisburg Area Community College York campus, and it's actually the second kind of remediation or intervention writing course before students can get into College English 101. This course, unlike the 050 course, is actually permitted to be 50% blended and 50% face-to-face, so 50% online and 50% face-to-face. We use the platform Desire to Learn, which is D2L. I know other colleges use Blackboard or Canvas, etc. I copy and pasted the learning objectives right from the course 335. They are, 335 is basically just a form that is given to me that gives me the textbooks I can choose, the objectives, the course description, etc. And below we see here, use writing process strategies, compose coherent paragraphs and thesis-driven essays appropriate for audience and purpose, employ organizational strategies, correct common errors, locate, integrate, and evaluate appropriate sources, and use MLA. The one that I focused on for this project is actually the composition of coherent paragraphs and thesis-driven essays appropriate for audience and purpose. The problem that I see is that students struggle with writing logical papers because there is a deficit in the creation of the thesis statement. A lot of students think that the thesis statement is what is stated immediately in the beginning of the paper. And I also see that students lack the time with the instructor, especially for these students who are still struggling with college level writing. They miss the one-on-one time, especially when the instructor lectures during the class and they are sent to write by themselves. So the possible solution that I came up with was actually to revise one of the units of study when focusing on the objective of the course regarding the thesis statement, and develop a plan inside that 50-50 parameter in order to flip the classroom so that students are supported with the thesis statement creation, and develop plans that scaffold and assess for that knowledge prior to our face-to-face time so that I personally can make those strategic decisions for our face-to-face time. So the way that I did this was that I decided what things were going to be done online and what things I was going to do face-to-face. Online, I created a video lecture, basically just a quick little overview, less than 10 minutes, of what a thesis statement is, what it does, how it functions, and what I'm expecting as a thesis statement. Then what I did was I actually used outside articles that I found on the internet to create a reading for students to do. So they actually read 2 articles. Then students would complete a review and practice activity. This practice activity is non-graded. It's used for evaluation, so it was a matching. What type of thesis statement would go with each essay, kind of then evaluating what is a good thesis statement and not a good thesis statement. Then I had students create their own thesis statements and collaborate in a discussion, and then they would take a quiz on thesis statements. This quiz is actually low stakes. They can retake it several times, but then I, as the instructor, would be able to see their progress and results. Then during the face-to-face time, students would work in groups to create their own thesis statements for a paper in class that we are writing. They work independently, but also with my support on their papers, and this paper is the summative assessment. It would address in the objective not only the thesis-driven essay, but also the coherent and logical paragraphs that belong in a paper. So the assessments are scaffolded. Not only do I have formative and a summative assessment, but I also have levels of assessment here. Practice activity, not graded, a quiz, able to be used multiple times. Then in our face-to-face time, I bring students to work with groups in class, so now they are again collaborating and having the support of each other. And the fourth would be a thesis creation and final argumentative paper. That entire paper then would assess their ability to utilize thesis statements and coherent essays. I've basically covered this, but learners will interact online prior to the face-to-face work, so it kind of creates that community on the online space and then in the face-to-face space. They work in the classroom on a group assessment. Again, this gives me feedback, and it also gives each other feedback. It allows them to collaborate and synthesize their learning, support each other, and grow. And then learners have the opportunity to complete a peer review in the revision process. I didn't mention that earlier, but I always do peer review strategies, at least with 2 other students. So basically, these are college students needing writing intervention. They range all the way from recent high school grads to students who have been out of the classroom for 20, 25 years. I have flipped the classroom. We have online and face-to-face collaboration, much like how we do in this course. Support where needed most, meaning when they need that support from me, writing the paper, and then their summative assessment of the final paper. So I am going to end this show, and I'm going to show you the course 335 quickly here, so you have an idea of what that looks like. Let me get this here. So as you can see, the blended, you can see my class description here, and you can also see how they are placed. They are placed here based on a placement test, so I also have that data. And then here are the objectives and the course materials that I'm able to use. So that's basically what I did for this course. I am going to make this go live for my students, so I'm just making some final touches on the D2L site. But I am going to make this go live and see how this works with my students for the first time.